Hello. Today we're going to talk about the 10 questions to never ask during an interview. You know, we talked a lot about what to do and what to say during an interview, but we haven't talked as much about what not to say during an interview and what those death questions are. Death questions are those questions that, of course, will kill your interview. There are 10 categories or types of questions that you should never ask during an interview, and that's what we're going to discuss today. I've included a link in this video to a good infographic to help you remember going forward as well after this video. Let's see what those questions are. Hello and welcome. My name is Dawn Casey with over 20 years of leading human resource departments and the recruitment function. I now help people with their career challenges, changes, and of course questions. This is the Career Rescue Coach YouTube channel. Welcome. What makes this channel a little bit different is I've been helping employees navigate the career waters for over 20 years, and I've had a lot of success in my own career, and I share my experiences and stories with you throughout these videos. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, and let's get to those 10 questions that we want to talk about. There are 10 main questions you should never ask during an interview. I'll share with you what those are and why you should never ask them. Here we go. Number 1. Don't ask about time off, pay, or benefits. By asking questions about these items in your interview, it gives the impression that you're more interested in those items than you are about the actual job. In interviews, a candidate should actually be asking questions about the job and the culture, the environment, and other things about the job rather than just time off or pay or benefits. Also, by asking about time off, it brings up the question about your work ethic, dedication, and commitment, and you don't want to do that. Now, the reality is that we all work to make a living, and these all are things that are really important to us, but it's just too soon to talk about these items. Save these questions about your pay, your benefits until the very end when an offer has been extended. That is the right time to ask these questions. Number 2. Don't ask about background checks or drug tests. You know, this is a crazy question to begin with. It just raises suspicion. Why would anyone ask this question in an interview? If you're concerned about passing this is not the time to ask. Many companies do today perform both background checks and drug tests, although a fair amount of companies still don't do drug tests. But whatever the case may be, assume that they will do both and don't ask about it. Number 3, don't ask about how soon you'll be promoted. The biggest reason this is a turnoff for employers is that they are interviewing you for the job today, the one at hand. They need someone to fill the current position, not some future role. Now, you can ask a similar question in a second or third interview to the effect of, can you tell me about the career ladder for this position? Is there room to grow? By asking this question, you're demonstrating that you're both ambitious, but you realize that it will take time and that you look forward to growing in the position. Number 4, don't ask how soon you can apply for another position. This again communicates that you are not really interested in the position that you're applying for, and it communicates kind of a lack of commitment to what you have in front of you. It puts the cart before the horse, especially because you haven't even received an offer yet. So, not a good question at all. Most companies have a policy around this and how soon someone can apply for a different position. Typically, a person has to remain in a role for anywhere from 6 months to a year, and is often in the policy manual. So, you can ask this question maybe after you've worked there for a while, but certainly in none of the interviews do you ask this question. Number 5. Don't ask about what the company does. The main reason here is that if you have done your research, there is no reason to ask this question. Proper research will tell you everything you need to know about this company. Companies expect that candidates do their research before interviewing. I've created a video on how to research a company very thoroughly. How to prepare for a winning interview is the name of that video. Be sure to check it out. According to a recent survey, 47% of interviewers said that they wouldn't even offer a job to a candidate if they had little to no knowledge of the company. Something to keep in mind. Number 6, don't ask about a reduced schedule or modified work schedule. Again, it's all about the wrong time versus really what you're asking for. Asking it for these things in an interview calls into question your work ethic and whether you're committed to working at the job at hand. Now, I am a huge fan about asking for these things during the negotiation process. It's these little things that balance out your life and just make life generally better. For years, I always worked an earlier schedule so that I could get off early in the afternoon, but also get a lot of work done before people got into the office. So, absolutely nothing wrong with asking for these things once you receive an offer. Number 7, don't bring up gossip about the company or negative topics. Now, this is just bad form. I don't know why anybody would do this. You really want to make a positive impression during an interview, so why would you want to bring up anything negative during an interview? You just don't want to do it. It's one thing to share with an employer that you checked out the reviews online and have a few questions, but it's another thing to share unfounded gossip. Now, if there were some negative reviews online that you want to talk to the company about, let's say about the management team, here's a question you could ask. You know, I looked up your company online to see what former employees had to say about your company, and most of it was glowing. It was very good. There were a few concerns about the management team and its turnover. Can you share with me a little bit about the background of what has transpired? Now you see, in asking a question that way, it's very open, friendly, and non-accusatory, so it's a really much better way to approach it. Now, I always believe in looking up reviews, but keep gossip out of it. Also, avoid talking negatively about former bosses or former companies. It never bodes well. It never is a good reflection. It always looks very bad on that candidate, so just don't do it. Number 8, don't bring up any topics that fall under what we call Title VII, and nor should the employer. Now, Title VII really covers anything to do with race, color, religion, or national origin. Since then, several other laws have been passed in regard to things like disability, pregnancy, and sexual preference. So in other words, you just want to stay away from these topics, and so should the employer. Here's some more examples. Marital status, family or children's status, where you were born or your nationality, sexual preference, personal characteristics such as weight or age, health issues or disabilities, drug or alcohol use, pregnancy status, arrests and convictions prior to employment. Number 9, don't ask how soon you can move into a management position. Now this is similar to number 3 when we're considering asking how soon you can get promoted. It again takes away from the job at hand, and it shows a lack of commitment. Typically at a company, there are very few management roles. Roles come open when people either leave or get promoted. So it's one of those questions that an employer couldn't possibly answer anyway, because it's like looking into the future in a crystal ball. They just don't know when someone can move into a management role. Number 10, don't ask the company if they monitor emails or internet usage. Again, this is kind of like that background check question earlier. It sends out a big red flag to the employer, and you can you'll see the shock on their face. Just don't ask this question. You can always assume that a company does monitor their email and internet usage, and because they're considered company property and they have access to this information at any time. So a good rule of thumb is never, never, never use these systems for your personal use. Final tips. When in doubt, don't ask. It's better not to ask a question than risk losing out on that interview because you asked a question that was inappropriate. And you can always run it by some friends and family before asking, and that way you can get a better feel if it's a safe question or not. When it comes to paid benefits or perks, always save this for negotiation time after you've received an offer letter. Modified work schedules are great to ask for during that negotiation time. Assume that both background checks, drug tests will be performed. That way, if it's not, you're pleasantly surprised. Never say anything negative about past bosses. I have seen more people blow interviews just on this one point. It might be true. Maybe you had a terrible boss, but it always reflects badly on the candidate. So, all right. Now, in all my years of interviewing candidates, I had a few candidates test me on legal questions. I once had a candidate ask what our policies were about pregnancy and pregnancy leave. and she was just seeing if we had any, so that was interesting. I've also had some employers ask me earlier in my career some illegal questions. I would always respond to something to this effect: "I'm sorry, I can't answer that as that's an illegal question. Is there another question I can answer for you that addresses your concern?" I've also been with some candidates that have asked about pay and benefits way too early in the process, and I've always told them, wait till an offer is extended. So it does happen, but I sure don't want it to happen to you. So we have talked about the 10 questions you should never ask during the interview, and some tips around those questions, as well as some stories. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, as I'd love to have you join the group. Don't forget to check out the Career Rescue Coach page on Facebook that answers questions and has lots of great articles. Be sure to come visit me on other social media, and I'll soon have a website that you can visit as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dawn Casey as a Career Rescue Coach. Remember, change your job, change your life. Be safe and be well.